Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where as promised, here we are very close to Copy Rock. I have learned mostly how to drive this thing. It is awkward and I only know how to drive it in reverse. But here we are. So we are very close at this point to Copy Rock, and you just gotta be very, very careful with this thing, is the way that it ends up working. And you gotta remember that all of the controls are indeed reversed. But once you know that, it's not the worst thing in the world to get going. But the easiest way to turn, I found, is actually via the rotation, not turning the wheels, which is mildly awkward. But here we are at the rock, and that is fantastic. All we have to do here is a crew report, and is this close enough? This is not considered a biome. This might not be close enough. We didn't get completion there. Okay, let's continue to move forward here a little bit. And let's bring this thing on up this hill here. This must be close enough, right? Okay, I'm using the brakes here, and I'm going to turn us this way. Okay, we are in contact right now with the rock. Okay, that does count. That is close enough. Fantastic. So, we got that completed. Physics is going haywire right now, but that's okay. We don't actually need physics to not go haywire. We just need to recover this thing. Okay, so we'll recover that. Awkwardness definitely ensued, but we got it done. The question is, did that create a whole series of missions? If it did, well, we'll see. Into mission control we go. Okay, let's get this completed. Thanks, science. Yep, I thought so. I thought that that's what was going to happen. So next up is Stargazer Point. Well, now that we have a vaguely functional system for it, I guess this is reasonably fine. So let's take a look in the tracking station at where Stargazer Point is. Here. Once again, that's pretty hefty on the inclination. Okay, so a polar orbit is, again, probably the best way to get there. And I would like to make some alterations to our vehicle. No doubt about that. Let's head into the VAB. I think at this point we have a pretty solid plan for how to get these finished. But we need to load in the Kappa Rock. And I want to drastically change the position of the wheels. Okay, so we're going to detach the wheels. We're going to put them in mirror symmetry. And I want to go into structures here. So, specifically what I want to do is I want to put in some trusses here. So I'm thinking something like... How large is that? That's quite large. So something along the lines of this. That seems okay. So I'm going to do a truss on each side like that. Then I'm going to do a truss here out this way. The question is the physics system going to like this? We'll find out. So we've got that right now. Now I want to strut these together in some way. So we're going to go to struts. And this doesn't need to be in mirror symmetry. We're going to connect this here. And then the same thing over on this side, connecting these struts together. Trying to make this into one solid piece is the idea. I'm going to do a strut here, but this should be in mirror symmetry at this point. So I'm going to do a strut from like here to here. It did connect on that side. Okay. And same thing over here. A strut from about here to about here, which it did connect. And then over here, a strut from here over to here. And that also, in theory, connected. Okay, so now what we're going to look to do is we're going to look to reattach these wheels. Not in this direction, of course. We're going to need to rotate them, because they're currently definitely going the wrong way. There we go. That's the direction of rotation I wanted. Now, the same thing out over here. In theory, assuming the physics doesn't break here, this should be a tremendous amount more stable. So that looks fine. Absolutely okay. In theory, we wouldn't even need these flip legs. I'm going to keep them there just in case, but actually I don't think they'll do anything. So that's fine. I'm going to save this entire contraption. I'm also thinking about removing this here. So that would mean this stage goes away. And we would put in this guy connected up here. Why don't these want to connect? That's odd. Let's go to a TD25 decoupler here. Or I guess a TD12 decoupler. Yeah, that really doesn't want to attach there. Hang on, none of these are wanting to attach in correct orientations. Okay, this is interesting for sure. Is it because we're in mirror mode? No. I'm not sure what's going on there. Let's reload this vehicle and see if that fixes it. So I want to detach this. I want to detach and remove this. I want to attach this guy here. No, that's completely broken. Okay, let's try heading to the KSC. And then back into the VAB. And if this doesn't work, I'll try a game restart. I don't think this was a mode change that I did. Okay, it's working now. Okay, I don't know what to say about that, but it is working. I'm going to extend this tank to a larger fuel tank, because we know that we need a little bit more fuel here to get into orbit. So we're going to go for something like this. Okay, and hopefully that's enough to also deorbit us. We'll have to see if this requires further modification. I'm going to save this as the Capo Rock here. Yeah, overwrite that. And I want to detach all of this and get rid of it for the moment. I'm not going to save this, but I want to put this out on the pad and see if the physics just completely shatters here. Okay. The answer is no, it does not, and this is way more stable. Okay. Now, I kind of want these wheels to be a little lower, so we'll revert that back to the VAB. And back in we go. And we're going to reload with the thrusters on. That'll be absolutely fine. So we're going to reload this from here. Perfect. And I want to lower these wheels just a little bit. So we're going to detach them again, and we're going to go into the structures. And I want to grab one of these trusses. Yeah, like this guy. Let's put this in mirror symmetry mode. I'm going to attach this about here or so. It's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. And we're going to do the same thing out over here. Something like that. And then we're going to attach the wheels to this. Now, we can see the rotation is definitely off. What button did I press there? Okay, there we go. That's the direction of rotation that I wanted. So this just gives us a little bit more headroom so that we don't accidentally blow up those batteries like we did last time. That'll definitely be a useful thing, and just something like that. Do we want to strut these as well? Let's save this. And let's detach all of this again. put it back on the pad, and see if the physics just completely freaks out here. Honestly, if anything, I think the physics is more stable here. Okay, we can still turn via the rotation SAS as well. So that's nice. We don't have to be reliant on a wheel turning, but this should be extraordinarily stable in comparison. Okay, back to the VAB we go. And that seems fantastic. And we're, of course, going to want to wait until morning before we launch this thing. But the question I have now is, do we have enough DV for anything even approaching a precision landing? And the answer to that is, honestly, I'm not sure. According to this, we have 4808 meters per second, which in theory is pretty good. I'm going to add in a little bit more. I think we've got the thrust to weight for it. Let's double check that. If we launch like this is just over 5,000 meters per second, which should be good enough. 1.53 thrust to weight. Okay, let's see what this looks like in a test launch here. I'm not going to wait for timing here. Well, maybe we should. Well, actually, this is fine. We're fine to launch here. We just don't want to launch near the Terminator. So let's launch this and see what our delta V ends up looking like. So off we go. This thrust to weight is going to be a little on the lower side for sure. And we can see that we were definitely lied to on our amount of thrust to weight here. I think it was in vacuum mode, wasn't it? I'm willing to bet it was in vacuum mode. So up we go, and we need to get our apoapsis a lot higher. We may want to consider putting on some SRBs just to have some additional thrust to weight here in this early portion. I'm very concerned about having enough DV for a braking burn to get anything even close to an accurate landing. Let's take this up and see what the DV looks like. If the DV is too low, we'll revert it back and add on some SRBs. For the moment, we're still sitting on about 4 kilometers per second. But our apoapsis is only 11. Yeah, I mean, we burned through about half of our fuel at this point. Not quite, but fairly close to half. And we're moving at 400 meters per second. So we're at 27 kilometers on the apoapsis, now 30. I'm going to start us on some form of gravity turn here. I'm just going to park us at about 45 degrees on the north axis here. Okay, right about here. And we're at about 50 kilometers right now for our apoapsis. 60. And let's just bring this over to horizontal. It's definitely still nice and maneuverable. I like it. Yeah, I don't think we have enough DV for our braking burn here, because I'm looking at our current orbital velocity and I'm thinking we've got 2,000 meters per second left in the tank, and we've got another 700 meters per second to get to orbit. Obviously, our apoapsis is too high right now. I'm just looking at relative speeds, and I think we need a little bit more juice in this tank. So we're going to head back to the VAB real quick here, and we are going to just strap on some side boosters. It'll be fine. And our gravity turn was a little on the late side. I'm definitely going to be doing that a little earlier in future launches of this, which should be fine. Now, in terms of where we're going to put these SRBs, I'm going to detach these, and we're just going to change the angle of them slightly, like so. And then the SRBs are going to slot right in the sides here. We'll do 2 of them. That'll be fine. And we're going to do 2x symmetry. SRBs are going to go about here. And we're going to, of course, put in engines. Okay, we want a solid rocket booster. We'll go with Clydesdales. They seem pretty overkill, don't they? They really do. Let's back off to kickbacks. Okay, so something about like that. Let's grab them and move them down to be about here or so. There we go. Let's put an aerodynamic nose cone on them. That'll work. And then we should strut them. So strutting at the top and at the bottom. Okay, so the question now is, if we combine all of this together, what do we have in terms of thrust to weight? 1.94, that is significantly higher thrust to weight. That should get us through that early portion and add the tiny extra little bit of delta V that I felt like we needed there. So that should be fine. We will save this as the Capo Rock, and let's put this out on the pad, and let's get this going for realsies this time. Okay, and off we go. Beautiful. So with that higher thrust to weight, that means that we're going to have a fair amount of additional DV, and that is great. And in theory, we shouldn't have any problem clearing these SRBs. Emphasis on in theory. But yeah, you can see here, we're definitely going up a lot faster. Absolutely wonderful. So we'll continue to burn relatively vertical here until an apoapsis of about 20-ish kilometers. And that'll be fine. I'm noting our SRB fuel drop rate here. Okay, so we're at 15-kilometer apoapsis. Looks like we're going to have to do our gravity turn partially before our SRBs burn out. So let's just bring this guy on over to about 45 degrees here. We're picking up a little bit of rotation as we attempt to move down to 45 degrees. That is noted. It didn't really like doing that. Okay. Parking here. Ditching the SRBs. Okay. That gives us a lot of rotational velocity because it took out this fin. Understood. We're going to bring this over. That fin is not actually super relevant, although we are going to have so... Whoa, that was a big attitude loss all of a sudden. Okay, so that fin is relevant. So losing that fin, why is this drifting off our camera at this point? What? Why is our camera focused here? Oh, okay, whatever. I'm going to revert this back again, and we want to see about not losing that fin, ideally. I didn't notice the fin be lost in the darkness. That attitude loss, of course, means that that's going to be really rough. So we need to get that fin situation sorted. I think the easiest way to handle it is to change this so that we have... Let's detach these fins. Get out of here. Let's detach these fins. I'm going to change it so that we have one fin on the outside of these. And then one fin in here, like this. So that will be the same amount of control surfaces and in relatively the same position. Not quite the same position, but that should be much, much safer. Okay, we'll save that. And let's launch this again. It will not be controllable without a command module. What? What do you mean it doesn't have a command module? There's one right here. Let's try reopening this that we just saved. Do you think we have a command module now? You don't. Let's go back to the KSC. And let's open up the VAB again. Now do you think we have a command module? You don't. The staging is completely missing. Let's detach this and reattach it. I'm very confused about this right now. What is even happening? Okay, I'm going to restart the game. I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, So, I got it fixed, and OBS definitely forgot that it was recording the game. I got it fixed. It was not a game restart that fixed it, actually. It was still broken, but then I noticed that this engine was actually clipped up into here and was detached, and it thought that the engine was the main part. I don't have an explanation for this, or how it got there. I can only assume I accidentally broke it when we were messing with things, but, I don't know. At any rate, we have it fixed now, and we should be good to go. I'm going to resave this as the Capo Rock, now that it is, in theory, fixed. And let's launch this thing for real now. Okay. So off we go here. And we don't really care about the timing at all. Wait, what is this? This control area is completely wrong. Okay. Let's revert that back to the VAB real quick. I think we're controlling from the wrong position. I think our part routing got corrupted at some point from all of those shenaniganeries. So let's come back into the VAB. I want to change our root part here. So I want to change the launch assembly, no, the assembly anchor to here. So this is now the root part, and I want to control from up here, which it should theoretically be doing now. Let's save that, but if it's not controlling from there, we can do it from the pad. But it should be controlling from there now. Yes, this is now looking up instead of looking horizontal. I think it was trying to control from this rove mate, is my theory there. But let's launch this, and off we go. For real this time. No more weird KSP2 issues, right? Hopefully. Hopefully. So let's take this up to about an apoapsis of 20 kilometers and start getting some horizontal speed. So we just want to park this at around the at around the 45-degree marker once we get there. SRB detachment is going to be interesting for sure. But we want to do that before we get there because these are the control surfaces that are going to be relevant to pitching. These are not actually going to be relevant to pitching. So that is definitely understood. Okay, so we're at about 18, 19, and 20. We're pitching this over. You can see that those are indeed the relevant control surfaces. It really doesn't like to move down here. Oh, we're not on lock for one thing. Okay. So this is fine for now. We need to get settled here, because we're going to be ditching this. So I'm going to continue to burn here for a moment. We're letting this settle in and staging, and off we go. Now, we might lose attitude here. I'm just going to attempt to lock us to prograde from here. And we'll just burn until, well, actually, we could rotate. Ooh, that's a big attitude loss from rotation. Why would rotation cause that? And also, we're drifting off again, I'm noticing. Okay. Well, this is fine. Ish. Okay. So, in theory, that's kind of under control. So, now we're going to let that make its way over. That is very strange that a rotation like that would cause that attitude loss. I don't have an explanation for this, but it's fine. We're going to need to pull this guy back a wee bit. And what is that periapsis prediction? Okay. This is a timing issue. I'm 99% certain. We're definitely moving a little slowly right now, and we can pull back on that apoapsis a bit to be about here, but the periapsis is a little too low. That's fine. So the question I now have is, what is going on with our tumble, and why is our camera not actually focused on the craft? I don't have any explanation for this. Why are we still tumbling at this point? We're at a sea level altitude of 68 kilometers. Start burn in 20 seconds. So why would this be happening? I feel like this is a bug, to be honest. Okay. Let's get the tumble under control. The camera is now focusing correctly on the rocket. Of course, our burn time, we're going to miss because of that. But we're slowly turning our way over here. Emphasis on slowly. I don't know. It really feels like we shouldn't have had a tumble anywhere near that significant. Especially from just rotational. Like, all I did was Q and E. I didn't attempt to move anything else. Okay, let's put this on the maneuver node. Thanks. So we're going to need a lot of velocity here. That's not surprising. The question is how much delta V will be left, and we're definitely going to have to handle that attitude issue after detachment of the SRBs. The easiest way to handle that would be to retain the tail fins on the regular rocket. But I don't want to risk losing the tail fins, so we'll have to think about what that ends up looking like. So the apoapsis we are going to reach eventually. I want to continue to burn here until the apoapsis is at this target point. Well, it's currently about 80 kilometers. Now it's like 120. Okay, we need to actually continue to burn prograde here and raise up our periapsis a bit, because our periapsis is going to be altogether too low. Now we need to go into radial in, or rather radial out, and shift this orbit a little bit, because our timing was off due to that tumble. That was quite a tumble, no doubt about it. It was a manageable thing, but note how much DV we have left at this point. Yeah, it's not a lot. So we need to burn here. We're still having some attitude control issues. Okay, I want to burn over on this side here. That is definitely not doing what I was expecting it to do. I guess we need to go around to the other radial? Yeah, that would make sense, actually, now that I think about that. Okay, that is fine. Let's go to the other radial, but we don't have a lot of DV left here due to that tumble. That tumble definitely cost us a lot of DV. No doubt about it. So we need a better system of aerodynamic control. We could put the fins up top, maybe. That could theoretically work. Okay, so let's just get ourselves some burn over here. Bringing ourselves up into orbit. And 70. But you can see here, our DV is very, very low. So I think we should probably revert this and do what I was discussing. So that would be, and we would just deorbit it. It wouldn't be a big deal, but this is just a time save. So what we would end up doing is we would end up putting the fins, instead of being at the top, or rather at the bottom, we'd put them up here. So instead of being here, we would take them... No, I don't want to do that. I want to do this, put them into 4x symmetry, and we would do fins up here, like this. And we would ditch these fins. So we do our steering up top instead of down below. Now, in terms of center of pressure and center of mass, it should still be fairly equivalent-ish. Let's do a quick test and see how it feels. This is not going to go all the way up to orbit, but that should fix that attitude problem, in theory. Okay, so we're just going to lift this off. And I want to get a little bit of speed going here. There we go. We've now got a decent amount of speed. I want to bring this up to, like, actual conditions, right? So I want to just stress test this. So we're going to bring this up to an apoapsis of 20 kilometers. I'm not taking this all the way to space right now because it is time to put a cut in here, and we'll do that next episode. But we've made some definite improvements to this design, and we should be able to get through these Kerbal worldwide tours fairly quickly with this design, in theory. That's the idea. We're just trying to perfect this-ish. Perfect it-ish. So we're at 15 kilometer apoapsis, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We're cranking it. Oh, that is very sensitive. Okay. So that is noted. Well, that's interesting. It reverted back over to here. So it gets uncontrollable at a certain point, and that's not necessarily shocking. Let's just take this over to prograde for right now. And yes, obviously this is a very terrible Ascent profile. That was a stress test of the aerodynamics to figure out what that's going to end up feeling like. Okay, checking that. What did that do? Hang on, is that detaching our wheels? It is. Why would that be detaching our wheels as well? I noticed previously that there was something detaching there, but I didn't think about what it was. Why would it detach our wheels? Let's go back to the VAB and look at the setup here. I don't want it to detach anything. I guess we'll put some struts in, and we'll test that one more time. Okay, structures. So let's put struts in mirror symmetry. From here to... Actually, it should be... Never mind. It should be from here to here. And then I would also like to do it in non-mirror symmetry. This strut already exists here. So I'm going to grab this one. From here to here. And then back here, it would go from here to here. Like that. And then let's just do in mirror symmetry. I want to have these be strutted together like so. So the question is, why was staging that consistently staging the wheels of all things? There's no decoupler here. There's nothing in the staging parameters that would cause the wheels to detach. So let's just save this, do a quick test on the pad to see if the wheels are still detaching. Okay, so I'm just going to... I mean, that's going to break these when it launches this way. That's okay. That's not part of the test. Yeah, the wheels detach when we stage. What? How? No, seriously, how? I'm very confused about that. I mean, we just made this landing, but, how are those wheels detaching? And it's the wheels. It's not the struts here. We didn't have that problem before. Why would the wheels detach when the SRBs do? There's no decoupler there. There's nothing that should be causing that. I have no explanation for this behavior. But it is time to put a cut in here. I'm going to try to investigate a bit, I think, off camera and see if I can figure out what's going on with this. There's absolutely no way that that should be happening. And it persisted, I believe, through game restarts as well. I'll double check that, but yikes. Okay. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy McGar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Tommy Kintogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time. That is a bizarre issue.